So let's warm up this list with the ones we're all sort of familiar with. Because if you've ever seen a depiction of an alien in a movie, a Halloween costume, or a bumper sticker, then you already know what a gray looks like. A large, hairless head, enormous dark eyes that almost wrap around the sides of the skull, small slit for a mouth, no visible ears, and a body that seems too thin and too fragile for something that purportedly travels across space, time, and even dimensions. But the interesting thing is that while we all know what this character looks like, the truth is it wasn't manufactured out of Hollywood. No, Hollywood got it from somewhere else, and so have many other people as well. The gray is by far the most consistently and widely reported type of non-human intelligence in recorded history. Across many cultures, across continents, and even across different centuries, the descriptions are always remarkably similar. And now, for the first time, that description is showing up in declassified government documents for the world to see. And the files released through the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters, aka the Pursue program, just happened on May 8th of 2026.
More than 160 files and hundreds of incidents are now online, dating all the way back to the 1940s. The Pentagon says the American people can now access these videos and photos instantly with no clearance required.
One of the items in there was an old FBI internal memo from 1966 describing various eyewitness accounts of encounters with small humanoid figures. They were described as approximately 3.5 to 4 feet tall with enormous eyes and a small frame. Now you have to remember that up to this point, there are alien depictions in pop culture, in the movies and on TV, but they usually look like robots or had spacesuits on. They were humanoid, but that's because actors had to play them. In other words, these accounts from different places and different people didn't have a frame of reference. Very few had seen this type of thing before, if at all, and yet they were all describing the same thing. And Dr. Eric Davis, a physicist who worked on classified Pentagon projects and testified to Congress in a secured facility, named the Greys first when he publicly listed the 4 recovered non-human species. He described them as the most commonly encountered type across crash retrieval programs and the most extensively documented in classified files.
They're typically the multiple species people are really like the Greys and Mordays. The Greys I'm familiar with from investigating the crash at Coronia, which is misnamed the crash at Roswell. Those were Greys, those were both the tall.
And if they are the most popular, then that would explain why this image of the classic alien has seeped into our culture the way it has. The modern era of gray encounters arguably begins on the night of September 19th of 1961 when Betty and Barney Hill were driving home through rural New Hampshire and reported being stopped on the road, taken aboard a craft, and subjected to what they described as a medical examination. And Betty later described the beings as having large, wraparound eyes, grayish skin, and communicating without moving their mouths. Under hypnosis, both gave accounts that matched each other without having been in the same room. And their story became the template for almost every abduction account that followed after that. And here's what makes the gray phenomenon impossible to simply dismiss. The accounts don't just come from rural Americans on dark highways. They come from military pilots and astronauts, from people who had everything to lose and nothing to gain by coming forward. Former NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper, a man who flew in space, stated before his death that he personally witnessed a gray-type craft land at Edwards Air Force Base and that a film crew documented it before the footage was immediately confiscated by the government. Dr. Paul Puthoff, the 89-year-old Stanford-trained quantum physicist who ran classified CIA programs for decades, said on the Diary of a CEO podcast just weeks ago that people involved in crash retrievals have described at least 4 distinct types of non-human species, and the Greys are the ones that keep coming up first, every single time. They are small, they are consistent, and they show up in ancient cave paintings and in declassified FBI memos, and in the testimony of people who swore oaths to their government before they ever spoke a word about what they saw. And the question isn't really whether the Greys exist anymore. The question is what they want. And nobody, not the Pentagon, not the CIA, and not the people who spent their careers studying this, has given us a straight answer on that one just yet.